Let's make a deal, says Eric Swalwell let's make a deal, says Kash Patel to Eric Swalwell. We got a little rhyming going on to start the show. All right? Patel, going right at it, just like Trump, social media style. Come on in, Swalwell. We'll talk. That's what we're going to get into today. Now, just before we get too far into it, this is the first example, really, I think that I can give, but we're a new show. We're a new voice. You're not wasting your time here. We've been talking about the corruption and the compromise involved in DC and politics since the beginning of the show. And this is going to be a great example. Everybody else is going to talk about the salaciousness and the inappropriate sex crimes and whatnot of Swalwell. We believe that everybody's innocent until proven guilty, and we have to cling hard to that model. Otherwise, America doesn't work well. By the way, including, knock on wood, the Justice Department brings charges against the traitorous coup leaders, Obama, etc. I think they're guilty, but they're innocent until proven guilty. That's the way the system has to work. So we're not going to talk about the Swalwell stuff. He's innocent until proven guilty, all that other stuff. But we're going to focus on the corruption and the compromise and how that affects both sides. What is the pluses and what are the minuses? Okay? So we're going to get into that. You're not wasting your time. We bring a different voice. Okay, this is The Ordinary American. I'm your host, Paul Sarkis. On this show, we are anti-leftist, which means we are anti-Democrat. We are trying to drive as many people away from the Democrat Party because it is not the party of your father or your grandfather or our JFK or RFK for that matter. And on the Swalwell stuff, the billionaire guy that Swalwell was holed up in his house in Beverly Hills for the last bunch of days comes out and, he's doing it because he's being self-serving. But he says he now sees that he's not a Democrat anymore. He's going to be a libertarian Republican. And he says specifically that the Democrat Party are not blue dog Democrats. Yeah, there are no blue dog Democrats. The entire Democrat Party is a leftist hellhole. This show is dedicated towards helping people wake up to that and move away from it. And we always keep the Bongino political doctrine in mind. The Republicans aren't necessarily the solution, but the Democrats are the cause. It means that you've got to not vote Democrat. It doesn't mean you have to like the Republicans. It just means you have to not like leftism. And then you can start to open up and see the good things that are happening. All right, that's this show. We're going to get into a lot of things. It's a great show today. We're going to get into the Department of Justice stuff with regard to weaponized efforts against the pro-life conservatives. It's tax day. We're going to do a little bit on taxes. We're definitely going to get into the Trump stuff. He's just, it's incredible. Okay, let's go back to let's make a deal. Kash Patel taking a lead from Trump himself, going right on social media, right to Swalwell. Let's make a deal. Why did he do that? He did it for a number of reasons. One, I think he's serious. I think he knows Swalwell has things to say. Why? This is the main point, and we're going to get into it. Because when your party operates on compromise and blackmail, there are trade-offs. Coming back to that. That's the first thing. But here's the second thing. He's trying to stir the nest. He's trying to get the Democrats to react because they know what we don't know. In other words, they know all the things that have been going on that Swalwell probably has firsthand knowledge of that we don't know. So what Patel is doing is putting out a little bit of a warning. And what he's going to do is he's probably looking around right now. Who's calling who? Who's reaching out for who? Who's going on TV or social media and saying things? He's trying to see what he can stir up, making the other side nervous. Who's going to get nervous that Swalwell might start talking? Kash Patel pulling a card out of the Trump deck. Let's make a deal. By the way, if Swalwell indeed has these major problems, he might really want to go make a deal. And no doubt, and now we're going to get into it, he knows some stuff. Okay, we've talked a lot about it since the beginning of the show, but specifically around Swalwell. No one is even pretending that all these allegations and things that suddenly popped up with Swalwell came from the Republican Party. No one can even pretend it. It's a joke. Everybody knows it's the Democrats. They're shivving their own, slicing his throat. Why? We talked about this the other day. Because they want him out of the governor's race. Now it caught a life of its own, and now he's out of Congress too. They liked his freewheeling bashing of Trump. He and Schiff were the two ones who would constantly say, I can't tell you everything I know, but I've seen evidence that says he was working with Russia. All a lie. How do you know it's a lie? I can't tell you what I know. That's when you know it's a lie. Okay? Most people who actually have that information wouldn't say, I can't tell you, but I know. They'd find a way to get you the information. Swalwell was a steady stream of that for the Democrats, and they loved it. So they wouldn't have taken him out of Congress unless they had to. And then they're going to be pretty sure they can sort of replace him with somebody that will be just as compromised. But therein lies the problem. When the whole system revolves around compromise, and it's written about now, so it's not even like anybody's pretending. All of the Democrats knew about these issues with Swalwell. They just chose to keep a lid on them before, and then when they wanted to get him out, they took the lid off. You know, that works, as you can see. So the party can kind of control you, be our mouthpiece, do our thing, we got you compromised. Stay in as long as we want you to stay in, and then when we want you out, we're going to release it. Okay, we see loads of examples like this. Loads. Sometimes we don't even recognize it, but it's happening. That's the one side of compromise. Here's the other. He's been part of conversations. He's been part of doing things, actions with other people. All of it grift and corruption and crime. Why? Because the left is all corruption and crime. There is no goodness on the left. There is no good, well-meaning, well-intentioned. None of that's true. You personally might have good intentions. You may have been tricked into thinking, oh, the Democrat Party is going to help the working man, so I'll be with them because I have good intentions. I want to help the working man. That was never true, and it's not true now. It's always a grift. Swalwell, because he's been in there for so long, he knows the grift. He likely knows who else the Chinese spies had stuff on. He likely knows the NGOs and the nonprofits that are getting money and scams. He knows these things. He doesn't know everything, but he knows some stuff. And so that's why Kash Patel is saying, come on in. It's just like a cop show we watch on TV. He's saying, come on in, talk to us. Now, what Patel knows is that he'll likely get a shot at him one way or another. I mean, Patel knows that either Swalwell's going to get arrested at some point, and then he'll get a shot at him, or he can do this, stir the pot, shake the tree, get those Democrats to be a little bit worried. Who in Swalwell's world has the most risk right now? I'll bet you Patel has an idea. So Patel saying, let's make a deal publicly. He's letting everybody know. By the way, he's making Swalwell toxic. Swalwell probably cannot get a phone call returned by any Democrat, not certainly in leadership. Why? Because no one wants to be seen around him because they'll get tainted by it. And they certainly don't want Swalwell to have a, reason to rat on them. Patel's being smart. It's a Trump move. Trump's been out on Truth Social. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And that's smart. That's good. Okay, we'll see. Let's make a deal. Swalwell should make a deal. Now, we know Maduro, we've read that Maduro, who's sitting in Rikers or somewhere in New York in a prison, is making a deal. So it is likely that there's a lot of Democrats who are nervous right now. Because if Maduro's talking, a lot of that drug money got funneled into NGOs and other things. A guy like Maduro doesn't last as long as he did because he isn't paying off the right people. Swalwell lasted for a long time. Look at it this way. He was sleeping with a Chinese spy when he was on the intelligence committee, and then we're told the fairy tale, well, don't worry, he didn't give up any secrets. What? Of course he did. Of course he did. I've told the story before. Ray Klein, you can go look him up, early founder or one of the people in the early post-World War II CIA era. I took a college course with him as a professor, one of my good friends and I, and he just talked about the CIA. And he used to say, the 3 ways they get the most intelligence. Now, this was in the last century. Things are different now, but I'll bet it's still true. The 3 ways we get the most intelligence: sex, booze, and drugs. I don't know about the drugs, but we've read about the booze and we know there's sex involved. Swalwell definitely talked, but he also probably got information too. So let's see what happens. Kash Patel being smart, doing the right thing. Let's see how it goes. Look these are all positive things. It sounds like it's just a salacious, sex thing, but it's not. This is all part of the corruption and the grift and the theft and the stealing of our tax dollars going through these NGOs. And we have to remember, innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty. Because we conservatives have seen firsthand, look at Trump, what it looks like when it's not innocent until proven guilty. And now we're going to transition to the next story about this. Todd Blanche, the acting AG, he confirmed what we all knew, but he confirmed it. Merrick Garland and Dopey Joe Biden completely weaponized the Department of Justice. They went after people that were innocent so they could make examples of them and punish them and show others don't speak up and don't get involved. This happened all the time. The January 6th stuff, almost all bogus, baloney, crap. Okay? But Todd Blanche came out in an interview, and I'm going to actually play it in a second. I can't figure out the video on this yet. I'll get there, but I'm going to play the audio here in a second because I think it's important. But basically what Todd Blanche said was they found emails from prosecutors working for the Department of Justice who were taking direction from NGOs and nonprofits led by the Soros crew, the globalists, etc., telling them which pro-life people to go after. And then when they weren't even breaking the law, those prosecutors abused their prosecutorial discretion, went after them, got them sentenced, partly because of rotten judges. We'll talk about judges maybe here in a second. Okay? And Blanche fired everybody who was in on those emails. That is weaponization of our Justice Department. I want to play this and see if, I think you guys will be able to hear this. Here we go.
And I disagree not because it's just my opinion. I disagree because of the work that we did over the past year at the department, understanding what happened that led to these completely inappropriate results. And prosecutors have a big say in sentencings in the federal system. The judge ultimately imposes sentence, but what we saw is prosecutors arguing for really harsh sentences, inconsistent with what they should have been doing and inconsistent with what they were arguing when it was exactly the opposite. And we saw internal emails, internal correspondence, which is now part of the report, where Department of Justice prosecutors are working hand in hand with NGOs and nonprofits to target and go after pro-life individuals who were not breaking the law. Okay? And I'll tell you what, there's no emails in my inbox from NGOs.
All right. Hear that? I hope so. Otherwise, that was just a lot of dead space. The Soros crowd had completely taken over because the Democrats let them. Why? Because it's all corruption with the left, always. Why? Because nobody wants their policies. Look at Trump. We want his policies. His policies are working. When you have to rig elections to make it so that you can get the power, then your job is to take out the people who are speaking against you because you can't beat them on debating policies and ideas. By the way, where did we see this? We saw this in Iran. I draw a blank on his name, Mogadek, I think his name is, the guy before the Shah. He was a CIA MI6 asset until he decided to nationalize the oil so that the money would go to the Iranian citizens. We'll skip over the fact that that's socialism and the state shouldn't own it. But what he was doing was trying to say, no, the British shouldn't get it. The Americans shouldn't get it. Our citizens should get it. What happened? They moved him out and they put the Shah in, who was a CIA MI6 agent, or not agent, but asset. What did they do with him though? They put in the Savak, the secret police, and they trained them and they helped them make sure that they took out the opposition and anybody that they thought was in opposition. That turned out to be the Shah's downfall, because when the CIA and MI6 came in to take out the Shah because he was not being cooperative enough and put in the Ayatollah, they used the existence of that secret police as a way to stir up people's anger, and they were angry and they had a right to be because of what that secret police did at the CIA and MI6's direction. Okay? This is what a Justice Department looks like. This is what Joe Biden was doing. The Department of Justice was taken over by the NGOs and the nonprofits that were controlled by the Soros crowd. So what Blanche said was the Soros crowd would tell them who to go after, tell them how to do it, tell them how to sentence, and they weren't even breaking the law. That is, when you hear right now, what you hear is the Democrats saying, oh, Trump is is weaponizing the Justice Department. That's because that's what they did. They always accuse the other side of doing what they did. And you heard Todd Blanche say, I don't have any emails from nonprofits. We found their emails. They were so brazen about it, by the way, that they were just communicating over email at least Hillary had the good sense to have a fake server and a fake email. At least Obama had a fake email. And at least others have done that. These prosecutors were just with their Department of Justice email, just typing away. Thank you. Tell me who to target. Okay, yes, I will go target them. Okay, yes, I will. That's obviously not okay and pretty stupid. Todd Blanche has fired them. Hopefully, if they broke the law, they'll get prosecuted themselves. That's what a weaponized Department of Justice looks like. When your party is based on corruption and fraud and grift, it seeps down to every single department and every single person, because positive things, actually doing good things, doesn't get a reward. There's no value in that. You've got to do the corrupt thing that forwards the power. That Department of Justice story, pro-life people were targeted and jailed because of their religious view on the stance of when life begins. Now, why does somebody do that? Well, look at the Savak from Iran. Look at any secret police. Why do they do it? It's a threat to everyone. If you step out against us, we'll do this to you too. Going after Trump. You may think Trump can handle this, but could you? Don't step out. We got you. The process is the punishment. You've heard that before. We'll drain your bank accounts. You'll get tied up. People will ostracize you. You don't have the format that Trump has. You pro-lifers, everyone around you who's going to get hurt because we're going to hurt you will now be hesitant to speak out because they'll see the destruction we can do to their lives. That's what this is. That's what they might call malevolence, doing bad on purpose to somebody else. Whoever those prosecutors were, I wish he would publish those names. I wish he would let everybody know, so everybody in their community knew who they were, who behaved that way and treated people that way. Oh, by the way, over an issue like pro-life. You may not agree with the issue of pro-life, but it's hard to argue that those people would be bad people. Praying at abortion clinics, trying to give out information, trying to preserve life. All right, that's a great example of a Department of Justice that is way, way gone. And fortunately now, it looks like Todd Blanche has been out a little bit more, doing some of these interviews, being more public, a better communicator than Pam Bondi. So we're going to see. We're going to see how that goes. All right, we're going to transition now. We're going to talk a little bit about Trump. We got to talk about Trump. Why? Because he's right. He's a great president. Again, somebody said to me, why are you so pro-Trump? Why wouldn't I be? To borrow a phrase from my daughter. Why wouldn't I be? He's doing great things. Before I came on, I checked the price of oil. It was down to like $91 a barrel, maybe 91 and a half, something like that, maybe high 90. Way down. When I drove in earlier, I noticed that the gas around here was down to 374, 375. Just a few days ago, it was 395. Things are happening. I want to read a Trump Truth Social. Got to put on the glasses for this. He put this out early this morning. China is very happy that I'm permanently opening the Strait of Hormuz. I'm doing it for them, comma, also, dash, and the world. This situation will never happen again. They, China, have agreed to not send weapons to Iran. First big thing. China is not sending weapons to Iran. Why? Not because they just sort of decided, well, it's not the right thing to do anymore. Because they've seen what Trump's done. And they know he's won. That, by the way, that one phrase, and I don't think you're going to hear this many other places, that's how you know we've won and this war is over. China's not going to send weapons because China knows there's no more juice in that. If China thought that sending Iran weapons could put this off, keep it going for a month or two, hurt Trump, they would do it. That one sentence tells you this war is over. I don't know how it mechanically ends on a technical basis, but China just told us the war's over. They have agreed to not send weapons to Iran. President Xi will give me a big fat hug when I get there in a few weeks. We are working together smartly and very well, exclamation point. Doesn't that beat fighting? Commerce over conflict. I mention it a ton. Commerce over conflict. All the doomers. Endless wars. He said he wasn't going to get us into endless wars. I don't know what it is, 45 days or something. It's not an endless war. He's rushing to get out of there, but he's doing it right. But remember, we are very good at fighting too, if we have to. Far better than anyone else. President DJT. All right? Again, Truth Social, putting it out there. If the market wants to pick it up, that is China saying this war is over. Now, Trump went on Maria Bartiromo this morning and essentially said, it's over. This is another Trump thing. I can't help but share the story that I read. So some reporter from the New York Post, I think it was, called him. She was stationed, I think, in Islamabad. And they talked, and he said, we're going to have talks coming up, and he thought they were going to be in Europe. They get off the phone. I don't know how much longer it was. He calls her back. The president calls her. Can you imagine being here and be like, hold on, I got a call. Oh, wait, it's Donald Trump, the president. I mean, it's unbelievable. And he said to her when he called her back, don't go anywhere. We're coming back to Islamabad. Why? Because Pakistan probably said, hey, it would be great for us if we were the center of this. And Trump, ever the deal maker, says, great, let's do that. You've been great. You've done this. We don't have to give Europe. The heck with Europe. Everything Trump does, people, they love to talk about him like he's a dope. He's like from the small, so, it's like he's a short bus kid or something. If you were in my era, the short bus was, where you might go if you had some special challenges. He's like he has a plan. I will say it again. It's called the National Security Strategy. He published it last November. It is on the White House website. You can go read it. Or you can look at the 40 years of videotape of him saying Iran can't have nukes and I would go in and take them away if I were president. Okay? He's had a plan. Within any plan, did he have to call some audibles? Or as the Marines would say, improvise, adapt, overcome? Probably. But He's telling us Xi and he are going to get together. Again, I'm going to say I will not be surprised if China does an energy deal with us. I don't know. They're building a lot of nukes over there and they don't certainly want to do it. But would they do something short term? Maybe. But what's Trump doing with all this? He blockaded the ports, choking off the economy. By the way, the ceasefire happens. He says we're going to go into talks. The talks don't work. The ceasefire is still going on until I think it's the 21st. Iran might have breathed easy and said he's not going to send any rockets or anything over us during the ceasefire. What does he do during the ceasefire? Closes the ports. He opens up the straits. So he's allowing money to flow through the straits, not going to Iran, and he's closing the ports, keeping Iran from getting money. Okay, I don't know. It sounds like a plan to me, and it's working. Oil prices are coming down. Xi is now saying we're not sending any weapons over there. I'll say it again. If Xi thought he could make hay by sending weapons, he would be sending weapons because he's doing what he thinks is best for his country. Trump has a plan. All right, this is sort of classic Trump. I just want to make sure, I want to actually that up. Now that I did, I just want to see if there's anything that came on. Okay, I'll talk about that. It's not new, but it has to do with the California situation. So Trump has a plan. I was talking to a friend yesterday who's anti-Trump, and he said, oh, he doesn't have a plan. And I said, when it's an appropriate time, I will talk you through Trump's plan, and I will actually show it to you in writing. That's it. He has a plan, and it's working. You don't have to like Trump to enjoy the benefits of what he's doing. You should. You should like him because of that reason. But if you got too much TDS, too much resentment, and too much anger in your heart, which you shouldn't, A, you should be able to forgive, and B, everything they told you was a lie. Everything. Every reason that you hold on to saying, I hate him because he's a racist. He's not. All lies. That information is available to you. Okay? He is making things happen. He's making the world a better and safer place. Here's what he's not doing. He's not supporting the globalists. He's not supporting the neocons. He's not supporting the City of London crowd, the people who keep the wars going and keep the conflict going. They just announced yesterday, what is it? They've blown up nearly 50 of the drug boats coming to the shores. I think it's 47 or 48 of them. Great. Great. He's killed, I don't know how many drug cartel people, plus who knows how much drugs. But I promise you, over time, no business wants to lose their product and get zero for it. And that's what that turns into. These things he's doing that no one else has ever chosen to do. He doesn't have special capabilities, really, that nobody else had. Other people could have blown up those boats. They chose not to. He chooses to. He's a doer, okay? And he's doing this in Iran. Get rid of those nuclear weapons. By the way, we can't know right now, but when this conflict is fully over, and I don't know when that will be, and I don't know when things will get back to what might be considered normal, but when it does, and it will, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 6 months, who knows? The fact that Iran has no nukes and no hope of nukes is going to change everything about the Middle East. Everything. Not to mention that we won't be funding them like Obama did and Biden did, which allows them to go create conflict around the world. Everybody will be focused on commerce. That's the Trump difference. And on this show, what we're trying to do is show you, stop voting for Democrats. Democrats got you conflict. Democrats got you the Ukraine war. Who was the only president that Russia didn't invade a neighbor under? Trump 1 and now Trump 2. Okay? He is the anti. Everything you were told is a lie. All right, we're gonna move on because there's a lot to get to, and I'm watching the clock. Okay? By the way, I'm trying to keep the episodes certainly under 45 minutes. I also try to talk at a pace where you can 2x and still understand what I'm saying. And I think the cadence is okay. Send us emails or comments in the chat if I'm too fast. But we're trying to get a lot of information with a different take that you might not hear everywhere else, like the Swalwell stuff, compromise. He's going to get called in and he might go make a deal. He might be right next to Maduro. All right. I do want to get to this story. This one just irritates the absolute poop out of me. The great, what is it, C3, I think is his X account. He puts out great stuff. He talked about how John Roberts was the guy that appointed that corrupt hack of a Judge Boasberg to the FISA court. He did that in 2014. In 2014, many of us who would turn into Trump voters, many of the 77 million, we were just minding our own business, trying to live our life, be good parents, be good brothers, sisters, cousins, whatever, husbands, wives. We weren't thinking about necessarily the massive corruption and how to corrupt the FISA courts. But the left was, and Roberts is part of the left, and he put Boasberg on there. He knew who Boasberg was. He wasn't vague about it. Boasberg didn't suddenly turn into this crazy lunatic leftist activist judge. And then Boasberg became the head, the presiding judge of the FISA court in 2020. Okay? Roberts, he's done some incredibly, in my opinion, corrupt things. And he's never been a voice of conservatism or originalism on the court. He's always seemingly rescuing the left. He's also a guy who, the stories say, spends a huge amount of time with the Democrat activist lawyer Norm Eisen, he of the lawfare model and efforts. Can you imagine if, I'm trying to think of an equivalent person, I guess it would be, let's say, Todd Blanche before he became the acting AG and he was just Trump's personal attorney. Can you imagine if Alito or Thomas were spending weeks at a time in his private residence going over legal matters? Come on. Okay? Boasberg is corrupt. What happened and why he was in the news yesterday was because for the second time, he was swatted down from going after the Trump crew for removing the illegals. Remember, Trump is trying to remove the illegals. He put them on a plane to send them back to Venezuela, the bad ones. And Boasberg tried to stop him from doing that and bring back those illegals. Why? A, those are criminals, and B, they're illegals and they shouldn't be here. Why is an American judge trying to put himself on top of the president? He wasn't elected. He wasn't elected. This story irritates me. That's the story, and I'm not going to go into more of it than that right now, but it is really, boy, it is super frustrating. All right, we're going to move on to that. Another frustrating thing. We're going to go to leftism again. Mondami with his $30 million grocery stores. This is leftism. I saw a piece where somebody, I don't know who he was, I think it was just a rando, saying, all the financial services companies, they are not going to hire in New York anymore. They're original hires. They're, people out of college looking for a job at some of these big financial institutions. They're all going to be in Florida or Texas. That's going to have a major impact on New York. And now Mondami, who's doing his $30 million grocery store and saying that it's going to be open sometime in a year or so. First of all, why 30 million? I went on AI and was able to find dozens of grocery stores for sale in New York City for way less than 30 million. Why can't he do that? And how does he come up with the $30 million number? What's he doing? And then finally, I'll make the over-under. 100 million in 5 years. Over or under? 100 million in 5 years for one grocery store. Let's see. Let's see how long it takes. It's not going to go well, we know that. It's been tried before. It does not work. as I've gone into before, and maybe we'll do another section of this, or maybe we'll do one of the weekend editions, the 15-minute videos on this. The Austrians do the best work, I think, on the big problem with the leftists from a technical point of view is that they have no way to price anything. And because they can't price anything, they're always chasing stuff or having to control things. But they have no ability to price anything. And that's not a small matter. How are they pricing 30 million? By the way, he already said no free buses because they don't have the money. And he wants to raise taxes, real estate taxes. He wants to raise inheritance taxes, all kinds of things. So where's he getting the 30 million from? And when it's 40 and 50 and 70 and 100, which it will be, what's he going to do? Leftism at work. New York, whew, you better buckle up, man, because you are going to take it in the teeth if you aren't already. And we'll see how many people leave. Again, if it worked, people wouldn't leave. They would stay. They don't leave places that work. People leave places that don't work unless they're forced to for a job or family or other things. Okay? All right. Let's do a little bit on taxes because it's tax day. Maybe a different angle though. Yes, it's true. I'm gonna look it up too because so I get the numbers right. Yes, it's true. What does that say? Okay, the top 1% of taxpayers pay 40% of the taxes. Top 10%, 72%. Top quarter, 87%. And the top half are paying 97% of all the taxes. Why is that relevant? Well, what happens is the left always says, we got to tax the rich. We got to take their money. They make too much money. How many, yachts can you, water ski behind or whatever the stupid comment is. But what they don't tell you is it's not really just the rich. The top 50% pay 97% of the taxes. Now, the top 50% are not just billionaires. They get to everybody. In 1913, when they tricked our ancestors into voting for the 16th Amendment, the income tax, they said it's only going to go to the top people. Well, look what happened. We're paying to have our money, we're actually paying the politicians to steal our money and inflate away the value of our dollar. They get more of our dollars. I'll bet you they don't pay tax on it because it's so much corruption. And we get less money to live our life, less money to invest. We get more taxes, and then the value of the dollars that we do have less, they buy less goods each year. That's what we get from the politicians. That's what we get from 1913 when they did the 16th Amendment. But the left always starts off, it's only for the rich. It's never only for the rich. But what does the left do? They do two things. They trick us and they think, I'm going to get it from him. It's not me. I'm going to get it from him. The rich guy. They trick us. It always ends us. Why? Because in an economy like America, the money is in the middle. The money is in the middle. Everybody thinks, oh, the billionaires have all the money. They do not. The money is in the middle because the middle is so big. So we get hundreds of millions of people in the middle. That's where the money is. But they convince us, hey, we're going to get the rich guy. See how that trick works? What is the second thing they do? Create the resentment around the rich. And what that does is it occupies us from thinking. So now we're bamboozled. We're like, yeah, the rich, they suck. I got to get rid of them. And I can't think clearly. It's the same thing they're doing with TDS, by the way. Same exact thing. They get you all torqued up. You got to hate him. He's the worst ever. He's the devil. He's the worst of the devil. He's the devil on steroids. He's the devil. Okay, and your nervous system can't think. There's a great video. It's in my X thread, The Ord American. That's where you find all this stuff. President Bukele from El Salvador. And he says, and he exposes this, taxes is a charade. It's all a scam and a charade. Us paying taxes is so they can get our minds to think about the resentments and to get the other guy to pay. And I got to work to get my guy in because he'll get the rich to pay and then I won't have to pay. And if he pays, maybe I can get more stuff. And if I get more stuff, then if I vote for him, then they'll get me more stuff, but I won't have to pay. It's all this stuff. It's all corruption and it's distraction. So we won't see what's really going on, which is essentially that they're just going to print whatever they want anyways. And I got into a discussion with somebody on X over the difference between printing and borrowing. As Bukele points out, the way they get the money to borrow when the Fed buys the treasury notes is they print it. Okay? It all comes down to government spending. They spend whatever they want to spend. It has nothing to do with our taxes. So on tax day, let's all try not to fall for it. Let's not fall for the same scam as always. Like get the rich, get the other guy. Let's not do that. Let's stop it. Okay? We're better than that. Listen to Bukele. He has really changed his country. And just think here for a second. Trump's talked about it. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. He's talked about getting rid of the income tax altogether. If it were me and I was king for a day, all federal taxes on citizens goes away for several reasons. Number one, they're unjust. Number two, they're just stealing our money and we're paying to have them destroy the value of our dollar. If you allow us to keep our money, we are going to invest it and spend it better than they can, and the economy is going to boom. We'll have 10% growth easy. The third reason is because then everybody's going to be able to see clearly without this tax thing with like, get the rich and I'm going to make you resentful of them and he should pay more and it's not me. All that stuff confuses and distracts us. If you take that out of the equation altogether, then we get to focus on the real thing, money printing. Focus, money printing. We'll get crazy growth in money printing. On this tax day, let's try not to fall for the distraction and the trick. It's not the other guy. There is no other guy who can pay enough that I wouldn't have to pay. The system we have now, where the bottom 50% is only paying 3%, only works for so long. Only works for so long. All right, that's on this tax day. All right, want to finish up here. I think this is a big story, a giant story, but I don't know enough about it. But I'm putting it down today. I'm sort of bookmarking it, and we're going to come back to it. But I want to mention it because it seems pretty massive, and I haven't seen much about it. X, Elon's company, announced X money. This seems like a major deal to me for a couple of reasons. One big one, X, as I understand it, relies on advertising. And when he bought it, and it was still under the Dopey Joe regime, and a lot of those corporations who were still willing to go along with the leftists because they thought they were going to have the power, they took their advertising away. But if he's doing X money, then it's going to switch probably to be what I would call sort of transactional, fee-based. He'll still get the advertising, but it will be more fee-based. Again, I'm going to get back to you with this in a better piece when I fully understand it. Look it up. Do your own research though. X money. One is he's going to change the formula for how X makes money. And by the way, I don't want anybody to spend more time on their computers. I want less. However, X is one heck of a site for distribution of information. And it is a huge reason why Trump was able to win again and why he's being successful now. Because Elon was willing to pay for it. And in the end, whatever he paid for it, $44 billion, that's going to look like pennies. He's going to turn this thing in because X money, second thing, with the fees, it's going to be massive. I'm reading some things like you're going to be able to see somebody mention a stock. I'll mention one. SATA, SATA, a perpetual preferred stock from the company Strive. They just raised their dividend to 13%. If you see that reference on X Money, you're going to be able to click on it, and it's going to take you right to a place to research it and buy it. Probably you'll be able to register wherever you buy stocks, which I think you're going to be able to do through X. You can just go buy it right away. It's things like that fluidity of information. SATA. Go look it up, go study it. It is a perpetual preferred stock which pays a 13% annual dividend once a month. Is that one once a quarter or once a month? I forgot. I think it's once a month, but I'm not sure. I think it's once a month. But it's 13% for the year, tax deferred. That is an unbelievable investment. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy in front of a great flag with a green shirt that kind of clashes with it, with the flag on. I love my country, my God, and my family. And not necessarily in that order. God, family, country. This is a great flag. I am not a financial advisor. But I highly recommend, just in terms of passing on information, that you go research SATA. 13%. Go study the risk. If you're like me, you find the risk to be minimal and it to be sort of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. All right, but that's X Money. I want to come back to that another day. Just wanted to bookmark it. All right, that's our show today. Let's see if Kash and Swalwell can make a deal. Let's see what Swalwell might have to say. I suspect he is making a deal. And let's see when the Iran situation officially ends. But Trump says they're getting back at it. And the only thing left on the table, really, it sounds like, is no nukes. Then there's not going to be any nukes. So these guys just got the word from China. China's comment about not giving them any more weapons, that's the tell. The war is over. All right. Please like, subscribe, follow, pass on, make comments, all the things. It helps us get the word out, build our audience, and help drive people and wake them up not to vote for Democrats anymore because it's a leftist party. And we are anti-leftist. All right. I am rooting for you. Please root for me. And don't forget to pray today. I got to go do that myself. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.